Hello, I'm Dr. Amber Love Johnson, and this is the EduCurious podcast, where we highlight exceptional educators and dive deep into complex issues. I'm so excited to introduce you to X'Zaria Bullard, who is a foster care advocate and such a success story. So, welcome to the show, Xzaria.
Hi, Dr. Love Johnson. I am so excited to be here.
So I met Xzaria when we were sitting around a round table in our cohort, getting to know each other up at Florida State. And she just stood out to me as exuding everything fabulous, like full on pink, one piece silk outfit. Her hair was perfect. She was looking just amazing. So I had to get to know her. Like, hey, what's your name? How's it going? And I was blown away. Xzaria, will you tell us your story?
Yes, I would love to. And thank you for seeing me. Just before I get started, the Summer Institute was such a new experience for me, and I felt very overwhelmed. And you were one of the people that helped me calm myself. So I do want to give thanks to you for that. And a little bit about me. So, of course, my name is Xzaria Bullard. I am a second year in FSU's Education Leadership Program for the EDD. When I was 1 year old, I was placed in foster care, and I remained in the system from 1 all the way up until 18. And through that time, I just experienced a lot of hardship, a lot of challenges, and a lot of trauma. But what I can say is during that time, I knew that there was something better for me. I knew I just had to get out of the system. And that really kept me grounded through those 17 years as I navigated the system. Along the way, I was lucky enough to meet some great mentors who kind of saw the same thing that you did in me. And they really saw that I could be someone successful. During my sophomore year, I ended up transferring to a foster home in Oviedo, Florida. That really pivoted my life. I was already on the right track. I always had good grades, but I moved to Haggerty High School and I joined the cheer team. And I say all the time that cheer saved my life. Although I had good grades outside of school, I was just getting into a lot of trouble, as foster kids typically do. I remember sitting down with my coach going into my senior year, and she was like, basically, your attitude outside of school and cheer had to change if I wanted to remain on the team. And for the first time ever, I felt like I could lose something that I cared about. I really started to get my life together and see a future to where I wouldn't be honestly a statistic. I really wanted to get out there and advocate for more foster kids to let them know that anything was possible, even though the statistics said otherwise. I really got into cheer, and my senior year, I took a tour of all the major colleges in Florida and some in Georgia, actually. And one of the colleges so happened to be Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University. And when I walked on campus, I was like, wow, like this is where I belong. And I only applied to FAMU when it was time to apply for college. It's not recommended, but I knew in my heart that that's where I was supposed to be. And I used to call every single morning, every single Monday to check to see if my application was processed. And one Monday I called 8 a.m. on the dot, as I always did. And they said, Ms. Bullard, you are accepted into Florida A&M, but you called so early that we didn't get to send you the welcome letter yet. So I knew before I got the email that I went to Florida A&M, and I received my bachelor's in psychology. To get my master's, I went to Florida State and I received a master's in counseling with a specialization in career counseling.
I have to interrupt. Is Tell us your age. Like you're almost done with a doctorate. How old are
Yes,
you?
I'm 24 years old. I just, sometimes even though this is my life, sometimes I'm like, wow, like I couldn't ever imagine that I would be where I was if you would have told my 10-year-old self that this is where I would be on a podcast, being interviewed for my story, getting a doctorate, excelling in that doctorate. I wouldn't be able to tell you that I believe that. And I'm sitting here now, and that's the whole point of me telling my story. I hope that there's someone out there that is in my shoes, or maybe they feel like they can't do it, and I really want to let them know that it's possible.
What do you wish other kids in your classroom knew about you as a foster care child?
That I've been through a lot. And when I say a lot, I feel like a lot is an understatement, and that I truly deserve to be in every room that I'm in because I've worked so hard, not just academically, but emotionally and mentally to be in the room with my classmates, with my peers. And I think that's really what I would get people to understand a little bit more about myself. When I was placed in my group home in Oviedo, again, I think it was just divine timing. So at the end, it worked out. So I'm very happy that I was placed there. But the home was for at risk youth, youth who are prone to running away, being disrespectful. We need more staff, more mental health counselors, higher police population. And I didn't know that at the time, but I got really close with the group home therapist, obviously, because that's where I thought I was going in life. I knew I wanted to become a therapist. And one day we were talking, she said, if I would have met you before reading your file, you wouldn't have been in this group home. And it really put into perspective for me that as foster care children, we're really just files. You read the disciplinary reports, and that's where decisions are made. It's never a conversation. And so she said if she would have met me, I would have ended up at the less at risk group home within my group home chain.
Talk about some of those statistics that you broke through. I'm sure you're very familiar with, okay, a student in foster care is this, this, and this. What are they? And what are the disruptors that helped you get out of that?
The main one and what my DIP is on is education. Less than 3% of foster care alumni will go on to receive a bachelor's degree, and less than 1% will receive a graduate degree, such as a master's or a doctorate. 50% of foster care alumni women will have a child before age 21. And those are the two biggest things that I didn't want to be my reality. As I've gotten older, I've came to realize I used to always say, I did it by myself. And while I do give myself majority of the credit, I think along the way I've met some incredible people, even when I was being disruptive, who really saw what I could be if I stayed the course. And that is the biggest motivator. My story is so unique. When I was about 12, one of my case managers, or she's a child protective investigator, she's the one that removes children from unsafe homes. She saw something in me and she actually stopped being my CPI and got custody of me. That was the first pivotal moment in my life. She's the one who put me in cheerleading. She put me in after school programs, college prep programs. I was in a college pageant. I was runner up for future Miss Bethune-Cookman. She put me in so much that I saw that I could be successful. Most of the children in my group home were not doing any extracurricular activities. So there was nothing to look forward to. It was just school, coming home with 6 girls every single day. And because I had cheer, I got to travel. I got to learn how to be a part of a team. I got to learn accountability. I got to learn how to multitask, how to balance life and school and being held accountable by my coaches. And my coaches, they didn't expect foster care Xzaria out of me. They expected excellence. I was just like every other athlete on the team. And I think that was the biggest difference between myself and everyone else in the group home. I also held a job. I applied for Wendy's the week I turned 16, and I worked at Wendy's from the week I turned 16 all the way up until when I graduated from high school. And it kind of intersected with cheer and taught me those same things: accountability, being on time, how to interview, how to speak. And those were the main things that helped me stay on course.
How are you an advocate right now for the foster care system? I know you're super busy with school, but right now, what are you doing?
So I have an organization. It's a little bit in limbo just because I'm in school and working full time and coaching full time, but it's called Every Girl Matters. It's an incorporated organization in the state of Florida where I focus on foster care, youth, mental health, as well as college preparatory material and things like that. Within my organization, I've done a few hygiene drives for a local group town here in Tallahassee, Florida. I've also went back to my same group home and I did a college preparatory workshop. just so the girls can physically see someone who stayed in the exact rooms that they were in, make it out of the system and do something positive with it. And then lastly, I focused my entire DIP around it. I knew that if I wanted to get a doctorate and I was going to write a dissertation, that I wanted it to be on foster care alumni from the perspective of a foster care alumni.
Tell me what you do right now with work. I want to know a little bit about your normal day to day.
I am currently an academic and career advisor at Tallahassee State College. On the day to day, I see students, I help them make their schedules. Most of our students will transfer to a 4-year university, typically Florida State and FAMU. So we talk a lot about career exploration. What does that look like for you? How can I put that into your schedule? And then outside of work, I cheer coach. I think that's important to mention because that's such a huge part of my life. And I coach at Dynamic Explosion Cheer Gym here in Tallahassee. We practice every week, we compete. And so those are the two things that I will consider work right now.
What are your plans for the next couple of years? What's your 3-year, 5-year, 10-year plan look like?
First, let's graduate. A year and 10 months is what I have left. Not that I'm counting. After I graduate, I've planned for the first year to just be happy that I've graduated because this is something that I didn't think was possible. And even going into my first semester, I was like, am I meant to be in this program? Am I competent enough to get through this program? And the further I get into the program, the more I feel like I can do it, like, or I'm going to do it. And so for the first year, I just want to be Dr. Bullard. I just want to be able to say that I've earned that accomplishment. After that, that's where things get a little bit tricky because in our field, I think it's two-faced. I think it requires the education, but also the experience. I'm only 24. I started my first big girl job the same day I started the EDD program. So I don't have much experience working. I think TSC saw the passion in me for helping students, and I was able to graduate my master's program with the full-time offer. But again, that was my first job. I've been a year in the EDD program and a year at work. So I really want to just work on gaining more experience as a higher education professional. And that would be like for the next 5 years, just really gaining experience, whether it's in the academic and advising role at TSC, whether I go back to my alma mater, FAMU or FSU. I'm not really quite sure what that looks like just yet. I'm still working on getting those details.
How can I help be an advocate for the foster care system, not having that real, first person experience, but having the curiosity to want to make a difference?
Think the main way is to listen. I think a lot of times as foster care youth and foster care alumni, we feel unheard, maybe misunderstood. There are a lot more foster care youth if you work in the school system, whether it's elementary, middle, high, or even in higher education. There's a lot more people with foster care background and experience than most people think. And I think the most important thing is just to be a listening ear and to have empathy. It's just impossible to fully understand unless you were in those shoes. What I like to say is when you were young, your parents may have told you the stove was hot, so you knew not to touch it. In foster care, we have to touch the stove. There's no one there to tell you that the stove is hot. You have to put your hand on the stove and figure it out yourself. And I think just being a listening ear so we feel heard is the best way to advocate. Having me on this podcast was a great way to advocate because now I can tell other people what the experience is like.
How would somebody get started as a foster care parent?
I know in each state, the Department of Children and Family, it has a different name. Some may be CPS, DCFS. In Florida is Department of Children and Family, DCF. You could go onto their website or you can go on Google and type in how to foster. DCF will pop up and it will give you all the qualifications that you'll have to do, the parenting classes, and there are ways for you to reach out to the Department of Children and Family. There's a specific part that you can reach out if you have any questions on what it takes, what kind of kids you may be getting. And I believe that it's the same for most states. You can just go onto your local child services website and they will have something for you to find more information about how to foster.
I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about the mental health aspect and the identity aspect of how you formed that as a foster care child and what you've learned along your journey.
Mental health, and I'm still obviously working on it, has been a huge part of my journey. In school, I've always excelled, I've always been high achieving. And so, what I've struggled with mostly is the mental health aspect in so many different ways, feeling like I'm enough, feeling that I deserve love and that I deserve good things. I feel like at some point I'm always waiting for the shoe to drop, like life's going good. When is something bad going to happen? And I still struggle with believing that I deserve good things that come to me. I think the biggest change was when I got accepted into the counseling program at Florida State. And indirectly, that program made me feel that I was enough and that I didn't have to change to fit the idea of what I thought an educated Black woman would look like. I could be myself and be just as educated as everyone in the room without changing how I talk or changing how I look or changing what I wear. The counseling program is really where I started to get better with mental health. I think it's important to have a therapist. Sometimes that's a very taboo topic, but I think it's important to have someone with the proper techniques and skills and trauma training to help me talk through some of the things that I didn't even know was a problem. You start talking about your childhood and you realize there are things that still affect you that maybe you didn't. So I think having a mental health therapist is very important.
Part of my research had a lot to do with the ACE study, childhood trauma, living in a group home. You got to see a
Yeah.
variety of things. What do you wish educators knew about the ACE study, childhood trauma, and how it actually does affect somebody's ability to learn and absorb knowledge?
Trauma rewires the brain and how we process the information that we see around us. If a kid is acting out, it's never what and it's always why. I feel that 99% of the time, it's never just they want to be disruptive or they want to be combative or they want to talk back. I think a lot of the time it's underlying causes. Are they getting enough attention at home? Do they feel loved? Do they feel like it's enough? Are they talking loud because maybe no one ever hears them? Are there multiple kids at the home and they have to talk loud and that's why they're always talking? And so I think what I would want educators to focus more on or just to understand is that children who experience ACEs see the world through a different lens and it may not look the same as children who haven't within the class. And it takes a lot of patience. And most importantly, it takes empathy. And I feel like sometimes if the kids felt heard, things could go a lot different. Not in every case, but I think empathy and time and understanding.
Well, you're doing your research and you're in the preliminary part where you're just scratching the surface. Have you discovered anything that has just blown your mind or disrupted ways that you've traditionally thought?
So far, the research is pretty consistent with what I thought, which is foster care alumni want to go to college, but when they get there or when they're trying to apply, they're just not ready. What I'm most excited for, which I think will shake things up, is when I get to researching and I actually get to interview other foster care alumni and really see what their experiences are like. For the literature review, most of the things I've personally experienced, so I find it incredibly understandable.
So it validates the real life experience that you've had. Other people have as well. Do you want to get involved at all with policy and decision making on a much higher level once you're done with the doctoral program?
Granted, the statistics of success for foster care alumni is low, but I would like to see more people who have experience make these decisions because I think sometimes when you don't fully understand what it's like to be there, it can become easy to make decisions that don't necessarily benefit the foster care youth or foster care alumni themselves. So, in a perfect world, I think that would be amazing, even if that looks like me owning my own group home and making it bigger, hopefully over time. That's something that I have thought about and would be interested into. I make it a point when I meet people to let them know that I'm a foster care advocate and a foster care alumni. And by doing that, I've met so many young girls that aspire to be nurses and doctors and psychologists that I've talked to personally, that I've given my story to, that I've given my number to, that I've donated clothes to. I used to do nails in undergrad, and I would go to a single mom's home once a month, and I would do all of their nails and their toes and their daughter's nails and toes, and that was a way for me to make people feel better about themselves, even if it was something as simple as nails, and I would use that time to talk about mental health, to talk about future plans, and so I'm really a one-on-one. I will talk to you, I will help you, I will share my story, I will share the tips and the tricks that I've learned along the way with making sure that you are getting all the benefits out of the system once you advocate. That's another thing. I'm really big on get all of the benefits. A lot of them stop when you're 18, but all of them don't stop when you're 18. And so I really think that's my philosophy. I try to be understanding. I try to be empathetic, but I try to hold every person I meet to very high expectations because I genuinely feel like if you can make it through the system, you can make it through med school, you can make it through EDDs, you can make it through bachelors, you can make it through anything.
So, say there is a foster student watching. Tell me some of the things, share with them what is out there that maybe they haven't thought about, something they can actually go after and get help with.
If you are 13 or older and you haven't already, advocate to get your independent living case manager. This case manager should be there to help you plan what happens after you are 18. My IL case manager, Jennifer, I'll never forget her. She came to my undergraduate's graduation. She was one of those people that saw something in me and saw that if I could get my life together outside of school and I could continue to do good things in school, that I would be successful. Talk to your IL case manager, advocate for yourself. There has been times where I've had to tell my own case manager what resources were out there. Learn about the pest. It may be different in every state, but in Florida, the post education secondary program allows for students to get a monthly stipend while attending a university or technical or vocational school. It allows for a 10-year tuition waiver. So all of my degrees have been waived by the state. It comes with food stamps. There are college preparatory programs out there. Talk to your case managers, make them get in there and find you programs. My college prep program is the one that toured me all over Florida and Georgia so I can visit colleges firsthand, which led me choosing Florida A&M University. So advocate, ask your case managers for these programs. And if they can't find the programs, ask again. Tell them to ask their boss where the programs are. Pay attention in school. Do your best in school. Join extracurricular activities. The state paid for all of my cheer. I got to do things. I got to travel outside of Florida. I have a state championship from my high school. Yes, I have a ring. I still can't believe it. The state did that. Granted, yes, I had to try out and make the team, but when I made the team, I didn't have to worry about paying. Join the extracurricular activities. Do all of them. If you want to do band, don't be shy. Get out there. Talk to your teachers. I made it a point to let my teachers know and my cheer coach know that my life was a little bit different. Sometimes my permission slips were signed by different people, whatever staff was on shift that day. So talk to your teachers, talk to your coaches, and let them know that life may be a little different, even if it's a little bit embarrassing, because what I found is that people tend to have empathy and to understand a little bit more where you're coming from if you let them know that you are in foster care. So those are my tips.
I want to switch gears again because you light up every time you say this, but tell me about cheer, how you got interested in cheer, and then how you have grown and now you're on the helping side of it.
Yes. So my first year ever cheering, I was still living I've just moved around a lot throughout Florida. So I was in Orlando, which is where I am from, and I mentioned my CPI, dropping the case and becoming my legal guardian. And one of the things that she was very strict about was you need something to stimulate your mind just outside of school. And I've always been a very loud person. I talk very loud. I'm very dramatic. I'm very extra. And I was like, I've always wanted to cheer. Little did I know I would never stop. And so my first year, I did what we call City League. And it's just where like the City League's football and cheer team, Saturday games in the hot sun, and I did that for my first year, and I fell so much in love. I believe I was in the 7th grade, my first year of 7th grade. We ended up moving to Tampa, Florida, and I continued with cheer, and then I entered All-Star Cheer World. People do not know how big the All-Star Cheer World is. It's huge, and I cheered for a team called Cheer Tampa, who is no longer a gym, and then I cheered for a team called Brandon All-Stars, who is one of the biggest gyms, not only in Florida, but just one of the most well-known gyms in the US, and cheered there for a couple years. And that's when I was placed in the group home that I mentioned earlier in Oviedo, Florida, and I went to Haggerty High School. Again, right place, right time. I had no idea that I was entering a school that had national championships. It was a really good cheer team. And my first year, I made junior varsity, and I worked so hard that year. So hard. I wanted to be on varsity more than anything. And my junior and senior year, I made varsity, and that was kind of the turnaround in my life. Following that, though, I cheered for my college, Florida A&M University, and starting cheer so late and still making it to the collegiate level is a blessing. Sometimes I feel like my path was designed for me before I was even here. Like things just seem to fall into place as long as I do my part. I cheered for FAMU, and after that, I became a local high school cheer coach. I coached at Leon High School, which is one of the oldest schools in the US, actually. Founded even before FAMU. And I coached there for 3 years. Once I was leaving my master's, I had to get a 8 to 5, and high school practices at 2:30. So I had to pivot again, which I'm very good at. And so now I coach All-Star, and I've really found a family with Dynamic Explosion Cheer. They welcome me in with open arms, and I'm now entering my second season coaching All-Star.
What are some other really big accomplishments that stand out to you? The cheer ring, winning all stars. What else is on your trophy case at home?
Making a collegiate team. I'm very consistent, and I DM'd FAMU Cheer so much before tryouts. When I got there, they said, I am so happy that you were here so you can stop DMing the page. I was asking every question under the sun. That is one of my biggest accomplishments, although not graduated yet. Getting into this program by far has been my biggest accomplishment. I was just kind of taking a leap of faith, and finding out that I got in has by far been that. And on top of that, maintaining a 4.0 GPA for the past year. Right. Maintaining a 4.0 GPA for the past year has also been my biggest accomplishment. And although this is not an accolade, I think my biggest over everything is being able to reach people, being able to talk to people, share my story, and let other people know that their dreams are possible no matter how big. That's my biggest accomplishment.
Talk about the importance of coaching because most people listening to this are somehow in education and often have an opportunity to coach. Tell us, like, why should somebody want to coach?
The biggest thing is you never know whose life you are impacting, and I mean outside of coaching. When my coaches sat me down my senior year and told me that if I kept getting in trouble in my group home, that I wouldn't be able to cheer, it quite literally shifted my life. I stopped getting in trouble. I started to learn how to walk away from arguments. I started to learn how to hold my tongue. Coaching is important because it teaches athletes how to get through life outside of the sport itself. Cheer is fun. Yes, of course. Cheer is fun. Winning competitions are fun. We won our finals. But outside of the gym, I want my girls to be confident, to be respectful, I want them to know that if they believe it, that it's going to come true. I want them to understand the importance of hard work. It starts with the coaching, the importance of having a schedule, the importance of balance. And one thing that my gym does that I haven't seen anywhere else is we have a mental health director. She's the owner. And so it's a family-owned gym. Dr. Dree, she got her doctorate just this semester. We have a complete mental health component of the gym. We have mental health days. We have mental health mantras. We do mental health activities. And that is something that's important as well. Being a little Black girl in the world is hard. And DXC's motto is "You Matter." And Coach Dree says it everywhere, every day. She has shirts. It's the mantra of "You Matter." And I think that's what coaches instill into kids more than they realize. It's more than the sport.
I would like you to talk about what it's like to live in a group home. My only experience with this, and I feel like other people need to understand it, I lived in a scholarship house to pay my way through college, and that was a group setting, totally different than how you grew up. But if you never lived with other people besides your siblings, it is mind blowing. So, can you describe that experience?
Living in a group home is like living in a place where the floor is constantly moving under you. You can never catch your balance. You never know what's happening next. This is me keeping it light. It was fights every day. It was the police there every single day. Like, there was a time, a good 6-month period, where the police was called for some reason every single day. Children are constantly getting Baker acted, which means they're either suicidal or homicidal, constantly dealing with depression. It's a revolving door of staff. You can never get used to who's gonna come in the front door because she might quit first day, which I've seen. I've seen someone come day one and never return. You get used to being treated like a number or a file, like you're just Zaria with the attitude, or you're just someone with the depression. You never have a home. It doesn't feel like a home. It doesn't even look like a home. It looks like a facility. I've lived in group homes where I wasn't allowed to take naps. I had to get up every day. We had a strict schedule. We had timed dinners, timed lunches, and I still eat fast to this day. And people wonder why I can eat a meal in 5 minutes. And I've just been eating meals in 5 minutes for a really long time. Your case manager, you might have one month. They might forget about you the next month. And then the month after that, it might be someone else different. You're constantly going to court. You can't cook. They don't allow you to touch the pots and the pans because who knows what someone's going to do with those pots and pans. When you think about just simple things that people were allowed to do, like shaving, we had to ask permission to get a razor and we had to give it back. We weren't allowed to spend the night at our friends' houses. So if you had a friend and they were having a sleepover, you weren't going. We had to earn hours to be normal. It was called normalancy, literally. And you would have to have good behavior in order to do things like go to the movies. And then if your movies was past 9 o'clock, you were not going. The best way to describe it is like you're standing up and the floor is constantly just going back and forth, and you're just kind of trying to keep your balance.
I've had a guest on the show recently who is the director of a recovery program. So he talked a lot about different substances and how that's intertwined with mental
Yes.
health and different things. So, do you have any thoughts on the parallels of addiction and the parallels of displacement?
Absolutely. Statistics even show the longer you are in the system, objectively, the harder it's going to be. Also, the older you are in the system, objectively, the harder it's going to be because foster parents typically only want to foster babies. They don't want the 12-year-old with the baggage or the 15-year-old with the 10 years of experience because they likely will act out. It's probably from a place of misunderstanding. I've been in courtrooms where they're talking at me and not to me. Like, they're actively making decisions about my life and I have no say on where I go next or what I do. And so I think the longer you are in the system, you are looking for some kind of outlet, and it looks different for everyone. It could be substance abuse. It could be having children. You just want someone to love you so bad that you think all I can do is just create that person. The longer you are in the system, the easier it is to, one, get a hold of substances, Foster kids run away a lot, like hiding in the bushes. We live down a mile-long dirt road and people would hide from the police as they're running away. And so it's easier to get substances. And then I think it's easier to start them because you're looking for that outlet. I just want to feel okay for a second, or I just want to forget where I am and what I'm doing for a second. And then once you start, and then you realize the substance is helping you temporarily though. And then now it's like, okay, the high is gone. I need more. And so I think that's really the parallel because they're looking for another outlet to feel okay.
Do you have any advice for somebody in the system who's struggling with that, trying to get out of it, trying to find a clear path, but just has all of this at them and with the floor is lava underneath the entire time?
Find something, anything. For me, it was cheer. I helped some of my foster care sisters, and I still talk to them to this day, a lot of them actually. Find something. I encouraged some to join band. One joined ROTC. Find something that is positive, that's not maladaptive, that you can pour your heart into. Whether it's advocacy, whether it's just getting out of the system successfully, then do that. Talk to your case manager. Advocate for yourself more than anybody ever will. And that's one thing I can say that I've done. Even when I was at Haggerty, when I first got there, they asked me 15 times, was I sure that I wanted to take honors classes? And I said, yes. Like, put me in the honors classes. I can do it. You're constantly underestimated. Advocate for yourself. Find one thing, something that's not maladaptive that you can do to keep you out of trouble and to keep you grounded. Whether that's social media, this is the perfect time for foster care youth to get on there and tell their stories and make money from doing it. So find something that you can do to keep you on the right path is my biggest advice, and to advocate for yourself even when you can't see the finish line.
When you got to FAMU, did you get involved in addition to cheer in any of the sororities or clubs or different other smaller family unit?
Yes, absolutely. So I joined Big Sister Little Sister, which is an organization on campus, and it's focused on sisterhood. My first year, I got a big sister, and then the following 2 years, because COVID also happened while I was in college on spring break. So it took away a year of my college experience. So after that, we did a lot of stuff. And within Big Sister, Little Sister, it's like 500 people. So it's a big community. Within that, we have executive boards, and I've served all 3 years, diversity and inclusion. And then I served as the community service chair. And so within that, I did get to meet a lot of people. Me and the president of BSLS at the time are still close friends. I also joined my class cabinet my senior year, also as the community service chair. As you can tell, community service is very important to me. I was able to come up with community service events. And that was a way to bring the community together. At FAMU, I actually hosted the only foster care awareness drive where I raised over $600 in hygiene products. And that was just in the products, not the monetary donations that I received for a local group home here. So I was able to find my footing by just joining. I joined a dance org also. I'm still close with some of them as well. So yeah, I was able to join some things while being at FAMU.
And was that a really important part of your journey to have that community aspect?
Yes, because I left Orlando, I got a new start. I got to present myself as who I wanted to be and not who I was. And so I really got to gain friends. All of my friends I've gained that I still talk to daily, all are from college. All mostly are from FAMU and my master's program. And that's why it was really important to me. I wanted people who could see me as the happy Xzaria, the Xzaria that always has on pink blush, the Xzaria that always has on a nice outfit, rather than like the Xzaria that always had an attitude, the Xzaria that was always moving from group home to group home, or the Xzaria that felt misunderstood. So it's very important for me once I got to FAMU to build my FAMU, which is what we call it.
It has exceeded expectations, and I have high expectations for you because you blew me away when I sat down next to you. I said, "This girl is so amazing." I'm honored to have had this time to talk to you this morning. Are there any closing thoughts or anything that you'd like to share with other people?
Thank you for having me on your podcast. It means a lot more to me than you think that you are interested in hearing my story and how I plan on using my story to help other people in their stories.
Well, thank you for spending time with us today. And whether you're a teacher, a parent, or just EduCurious, join the community as we explore various educational topics and learn from each other. We'll see you next time.